Science fiction has been predicting force fields and death rays for over a century, but the reality may be closer than you think.
It doesn't use wires or darts or anything, it just fires a bolt of lightning.
They're called directed energy weapons, and they already have the power to stun or kill. Shooting at the speed of light, a laser beam is 300,000 times faster than a bullet. But a bullet is designed purely to kill. Directed energy weapons give you a choice. Soon, I'll be coming face to face with the deadliest high-energy lasers that can zap a missile right out of the sky. But non-lethal versions could soon take the place of stun guns and pepper spray, both of which only work at close range. That's an advantage that could revolutionize the world of law enforcement. When hostages are involved, taking down the wrong guy is an officer's greatest fear. And when the pressure is mounting, it's easy to lose control of the situation.
What happened in that first shootout isn't clear. The authorities say they tried to serve a warrant and were fired on.
This was all too graphically illustrated during the Waco siege of 1993.
Who's gonna bring that book?
Religious fanatic David Koresh held 96 men, women, and children inside a massive compound. After a 51-day standoff, the FBI were forced to go in. The resulting shootout and subsequent blaze killed almost everyone inside.
They were just defending themselves. Whatever the truth, it's viewed as a botched operation.
To show how directed energy weapons could make a critical difference in a hostage situation, I joined the SWAT team of Anderson, Indiana, who were about to run a training exercise.
Keep your heads low and let's do it right. Let's go. $27840, good.
We have a hostage situation in the old engineering building. We've got 2 white male suspects involved.
On the first run through, the team is armed with the kind of weapons I'm used to. Standard issue handguns and assault rifles. As soon as we arrive at the operational area, Chief of Police Mike Reed briefs us on the situation.
Hi guys, listen, the situation's in the south end of the building.
2 men are holding a young woman hostage.
As far as we know, we've got 1 handgun and possibly a long gun involved.
All right, guys, form up.
The task we face is daunting. The building is huge. It's 250,000 square feet with dozens and dozens of rooms, long corridors, hundreds of doors, and potential exits. We know the hostage might already be injured, so there's no time to wait for backup. And that means a small number of officers have to secure a very large area. Every doorway or corridor represents a risk, and every last man is needed.
So what's the tactical situation here?
Right now we've got a very large room we have to cover. I had to build 2 guys off for security. One guy has got a hallway to keep our backs, and another guy's got to watch 2 doors where suspects could come out of, which could make it very dangerous.
One man is forced into the very difficult situation of attempting to cover 2 exits at the same time, and that could result in a fatal mistake being made. A moment's indecision by the officer allows one suspect to escape from one of the doorways at the back. In the confusion, he tries to shoot the other suspect, but his first shot hits the hostage instead. The exercise ends in disaster.
So, John, what went wrong there?
We had a larger building here, and it was hard to maintain the perimeter for such a large area for one person. He had to concentrate on 2 different areas. I think that's what caused the problem.
The hostage has taken a bullet, and 1 kidnapper has escaped. All in all, not a good day for the team. This is the problem small teams have covering an area this big. And that's where directed energy weapons could make all the difference. Just a few miles away in downtown Anderson, inventor and maverick Pete Bitar is perfecting the latest generation of future weapons.
Some of the things we're working on right now are in our Photonic Disruptor series.
He's working on 2 devices which can stop criminals in their tracks. The first is a laser that's powerful enough to disable anyone who gets in its way.
These lasers are designed to temporarily distract and disorient and disable someone's ability to focus on their target.
Can you demonstrate that on me?
Well, let me have you stand back just a little bit, just to be absolutely safe.
Sure.
All right, ready?
Yep. It's definitely something where it definitely causes a moment where I can't see anything, like kind of like a flashbulb.
Yeah, I mean, you probably have some after image.
Exactly. I definitely have after image. There's like a big, green blob where your face belongs right
Exactly.
Technology like this could already make a difference in the war on terror.
One example right now that this is being used currently is in combat to stop vehicles at checkpoints.
Iraqi insurgents have often run roadblocks and killed coalition soldiers. but small, powerful lasers can obscure the driver's vision, temporarily blinding him and forcing the vehicle to stop.
It's taking pretty much right until now for my vision to really fully recover from that laser that was in my eye.
Yeah, and that's the idea, is you get that momentary, temporary inability to focus on your target.
Pete Bitar's other feature weapon is even more shocking.
I'm a little curious, what is this?
This is what we call stun strike. Stun strike is sort of that wireless stun gun. It doesn't use wires or darts or anything. It just fires a bolt of lightning.
I don't know, man. It kind of looks like a briefcase to me.
It's just a briefcase from the outside, and that keeps our secrets safe, but inside there's a lot of firepower.
Oh, hey, that's a wake-up call right there.
This static electrical charge delivers over 200,000 volts, more than enough to knock a man off his feet.
If they walk into that, obviously they're going to be stunned, and you hope they don't even walk into it because of the intimidating effect and the natural psyche of lightning, you know?
You just hit the word, intimidating effect.
Yes.
I mean, when I first saw it pop off, I just wanted to make sure I was at a safe distance.
Exactly.
For a second, I just wanted to make sure I was at a safe distance.
Exactly.
I mean, it is impressive. I mean, it looks like something out of Star Wars.
So, how would this new generation of weapons be used in the field? Let's rewind the hostage exercise. But this time, John and the SWAT team have the advantage of stun strike and laser technology. The officer wisely positions a stun strike device beside one of the doorways he has to cover, allowing him to concentrate on the other exit. His gun is now fitted with a lightweight, dazzling laser. The stun strike zaps the first suspect as he tries to exit the doorway. At the same instant, the officer fires his laser at the other suspect and hostage. Both devices buy the SWAT team vital seconds as they gain control of the situation without any casualties.
Why did that work?
That one worked, I think, a lot better because the officer that was guarding the two doors had one less thing to do. He just guarded one door, and the other device guarded the second door.
How do you see this technology working in law enforcement in the future?
I think it would be one less place that an officer has to be concerned about, and it would reduce the stress.
Next, I face the LRAD. It's louder than a jet engine.
That is very, very loud.
And it's already seen action in Iraq.
It's like having bullets where you have a volume control.
Scientists are currently developing a new generation of military hardware that uses pure energy instead of projectiles. Directed energy weapons are not limited to lasers and lightning. There is another form of invisible wave that can be used as a powerful and effective weapon. I'm talking about sound. During the first Gulf War, the U.S. Army deployed psychological operations teams armed with vehicle-mounted loudspeakers. These were used to blast propaganda messages, invitations to surrender, and Western heavy metal music in order to deceive and disorient the enemy. They even played the sounds of armored vehicles and helicopters to create ghost battalions out of thin air. This proved that the military was using sound waves as a viable strategic option. To create these effects requires huge loudspeakers and lots of energy to drive the amplifiers. But conventional loudspeaker design hasn't changed in nearly 100 years, and to create an effective acoustic weapon, you need something a little more sophisticated. Behind the mirrored windows of this ordinary-looking San Diego office block, one successful inventor has achieved what was previously thought to be impossible. He's designed the world's first truly directional combat loudspeaker.
When I was a kid, I think I was in high school before I saw my first TV set. So what there was sound.
Woody Norris has spent more than 30 years building and patenting hundreds of hugely successful ideas.
I thought up my first invention kind of as a joke, and then after coming up with the idea, I thought, well, this maybe isn't a joke. Maybe this will work.
Woody's breakthrough was to realize that if sound waves could be focused in the same way as rays of light, it would open up a whole new world of possibilities.
What if you turn on a light bulb and the light just went everywhere, like the original Edison light bulb did? What good is that? Well, it lights you up in the dark, but you wouldn't have things like movies. You got to project it, focus it, shine it in a direction. That's controlling and projecting light. I thought, well, geez, we got to be able to do that with sound.
Now, how is your device different from a regular loudspeaker?
Well, I just happen to have a conventional loudspeaker right here. Probably about the size you see in a woofer in your home audio. Okay. I got a 9-volt battery. Just going to put it across the terminals. Watch what happens to the cone. If I do this, Doesn't matter which way I turn,
I can still hear it.
you hear the sound. Now, hypersonic sound is totally different. This is truly the first difference in the way we make sound since the invention of the loudspeaker nearly 80 years ago. It's like a spotlight. In fact, it's almost like a laser beam.
A conventional loudspeaker generates audio waves in every direction, which spread out as they travel like ripples on a pond. The volume heard by the listener drops off quickly the further away he is. Woody's design is different. It uses highly directional ultrasound at much higher frequencies to carry the regular audio. These travel in a focused beam so they don't spread out and they don't get quieter even over long distances.
This thing happens to be on full blast right now. Can you hear it?
I hear nothing.
Oh, watch what happens.
Now, is that bouncing right off the camera?
Yeah, we're hearing a reflection. I can actually reflect it off of a person's clothing.
Nothing? And I could swear that's coming from right over there.
It is coming from right over there. The wall is the loudspeaker. Now, what if I want to put a pair of headphones on you?
Right.
Now, what's happened is...
Now I hear it just really right here, right now.
Now, turn towards me.
Now I hear it both.
Right here.
Right.
Right in the center of your head. Imagine a soda on a good hot day.
Now, how do you get that level of fidelity with this?
After about 8 years and $40 million worth of investment.
On the battlefield, this ability to focus sound waves can be used to send clear, audible messages over incredible distances. But for practical use in a real-life combat situation, obviously you need something a little bigger. Enter the Long-Range Acoustic Device, LRAD for short.
Compared to what we saw inside, this little guy is over 10,000 times louder. Now, with this device, I can put out 155 decibels and stand where you are, or back here where I am, and hear it, but be comfortable in the level and not worry about suffering ear damage. Go out about 20, 30 feet and walk yourself across in front of it, and you'll notice about a 40 to 50 decibel increase in the output level from being off to the side as to being in the beam.
It's not so intense right here, but I can definitely hear it. And now as I start to walk in front of it, exponentially, with each step I take, it gets louder and louder. I'm having to compete with the sound. And now I'm standing right in front. I mean, it is very loud right here.
Now remember, that's the minimum level.
That's the minimum level. And
right here, evidence.
Okay, could you increase it just a little bit? That is very, very, very loud. Okay? It's like getting punched in the eardrum. Really,
right.
it's like a laser pinpoint toward my eardrum.
The reaction we've had from test groups that we've used with this product is that it's like putting on handcuffs.
Right.
You drop what you've got and you cup your ears.
A chilling example of how the LRAD could have saved lives took place on October 12th in the year 2000. A small boat loaded with explosives approached the battleship USS Cole while it was refueling in the Middle East. The guards on the deck were prevented from opening fire by the ship's rules of engagement.
When that happened, there were 50 sailors on deck with M16 rifles. Dangerous,
absolutely,
of course, but they didn't want to shoot civilians.
If the Cole had opened fire and the boat's passengers had turned out to be innocent civilians, it would have caused a major international incident. So instead, the sailors on board were forced to simply stand by and watch it approach. 17 U.S. sailors were killed in the attack. 39 more were injured, and the damage to the Cole was estimated at around $1 billion.
The fundamental conclusion is that we must view terrorists as a relentless enemy, and they will continue to tenaciously look for exposed seams in our force protection armor.
And so the difference between doing nothing and killing people is the gap that's filled by this product.
So in a hostile situation, what's the procedure for using this?
Well, first of all, you use it to determine what someone's intention is.
You are in a Navy vessel exclusion zone. Reverse course immediately or I will fire upon you.
If they continue to approach, you get a little more stern in your commands. If they get within the 500-yard perimeter, you know they are not there by accident. And so then you can flip it into high gear. And the output increases by about 5,000 times per setting of the volume control. And so what I do then is give them some discomfort and go from a voice to a whole variety of tones. The LRAD right now is deployed in Turkey, Afghanistan, of course, Iraq. Most recent count is we have over 300 of these in Iraq. And so, again, it's like having bullets where you have a volume control. And, of course, the ultimate action would be, if they continue to come, is to shoot them.
In Iraq, the LRAD has already proven itself to be an effective military asset by preventing real-life attacks before a single round was fired. Coming up, the biggest national threat since the atomic bomb.
EMP would be very dangerous to the U.S. Armed Forces.
Capable of wiping out an entire continent.
We're not talking about New Mexico. We're talking about the United States.
Directed energy weapons like lasers and acoustic devices are effective because they focus all their energy onto a single spot.
H minus 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7.
So just imagine how much more terrifying that would be if that energy could be spread across an entire continent.
1, 0.
America's nuclear test program produced the most fearsome weapons of mass destruction the world had ever seen. Generating heat and blast on a scale never imagined before, mankind suddenly had the power to destroy entire cities. This terrifying spectacle was so overwhelming that one side effect of these tests was almost overlooked: the electromagnetic pulse.
When we first tested nuclear weapons before Hiroshima, we tested some in the Pacific, about, maybe 1,000 miles from Hawaii. But the electromagnetic energy that generated carried all the way to Hawaii and actually blew out electric street lights and red and green signal lights in Hawaii.
They had discovered EMP, an invisible pulse from a nuclear blast that completely and permanently destroys electronic equipment over massive distances. The military quickly realized how vulnerable it was and took steps to protect itself.
During the Cold War, we were very concerned about EMP because of the byproducts of a nuclear attack. And I mean a tactical nuclear attack on the battlefield. We went to great lengths to harden ourselves against EMP. Since the Cold War, that's not such a big criteria.
When the Cold War ended, the threat of nuclear attack disappeared and EMP ceased to be a concern. We surrounded ourselves with even more sophisticated technology, and gradually we became increasingly dependent on the systems we created. Transport, finance, electricity, communications, everything relies on a hidden network of millions of microchips, each one silently working for us. Like it or not, today, there's no going back.
Think about it. You buy a cup of coffee. The guy who sells the coffee gets the grains from a supplier, who has them delivered by truck from a warehouse. It's all connected. So what happens when suddenly, without warning, the connection is broken? And the machine just stops.
The lights are out in a huge and history-making blackout.
People are without water and
what's going on?
In August 2003, when the power shut off along the east coast of America and Canada, unprecedented chaos broke out.
It'll be okay, honey. It'll be all right.
Major cities like New York were brought to a standstill. Thousands were trapped in subway tunnels, while road traffic became instantly gridlocked. But things could have been much worse. Vehicles may have been at a standstill, but at least they worked. Mobile phones and police radios weren't affected. Once the power came back on, things quickly returned to normal. An EMP attack would make these events almost seem trivial. The technology already exists to build a weapon that could bring a country like the United States to its knees. A weapon so powerful, it could completely obliterate an entire infrastructure. To find out more, I have to make my way to one of the most isolated and remote locations in the United States. It's also where the story of EMP began.
Up ahead is the largest military installation in the United States, with over 3,000 square miles of testing ground. The base first came to prominence in 1945 with the explosion of the world's first atomic bomb.
Our need is pressing for a nearby test site. This is called Ground Zero.
Back then, the work concentrated on trying to perfect the ultimate nuclear weapon. Today, ironically, it's all about defending ourselves against it.
And as you might expect, there are some humdingers in the way of gadgets.
The equipment might have changed a little, but White Sands is still researching the effects of a nuclear blast. It may not look it, but in a way, this is the modern equivalent of an atomic bomb.
What is this device? What's this thing do?
This is an EMP simulator. We use this facility here to simulate the effects of a high-altitude nuclear explosion.
It doesn't produce a mushroom cloud or nuclear fallout, but this device plays a vital role in preparing America's defense force against the unthinkable.
The military uses this testing facility for what?
Currently, we test all Army systems here. Our commanders need to know that in the event of a nuclear detonation on the battlefield, that they'll still be able to operate.
But the modern military relies heavily on ultra-high-tech systems. Is it really ready for an EMP attack?
EMP would be very dangerous to the U.S. Armed Forces.
General Wayne Downing was in charge of the U.S. Special Operations Command.
Because we are a highly technological force, we use sophisticated electronic gear. You know, you've got sensors, you've got communications devices, you've got computers. The battlefield is the ultimate system.
And if today's military hardware was suddenly wiped out, our only short-term line of defense would be to go back to basics.
Which means we'd have to dust off our lensatic compasses on our maps. And that's why when we train today, you've still got to train under conditions without your technology. EMP could cause us a lot of heartache.
After the break, I see for myself what EMP can do. And then I put myself directly in the firing line. I've come to White Sands Missile Range to see for myself what an EMP attack might actually do. This device creates the same electromagnetic pulse that's given off by a nuclear blast. The pulse doesn't affect people, only electronics. But just to be on the safe side, Russ and I retreat to a safe distance.
Touching in the area will now fire the EMP pulse charging. 10.
This remote control helicopter is about to fly through an electric discharge of close to 1,000,000 volts.
5.
And yet the most sinister thing about it
3. 2.
is there's no flash, no bang.
Yeah, got it. There you go. There you go. Excellent work. Excellent work. Man,
In an instant, the helicopter circuitry is completely fried.
that's awesome. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. 1 second you're in the air, next second you're on the ground. Not a good way to go through the day, especially if you're in an airplane. Let's go take a look at it. Flying along just like that. He's doing a great job. Next thing you know, just one little click, and boom. Right out of the sky.
For the ultimate test, I'm going to put myself right into the line of fire by driving a vehicle through the pulse. The fuel tank has been specially prepared using pressurized nitrogen to prevent an explosion. Even so, this isn't exactly standard procedure.
They've assured me that when the pulse radiates, that the car will not explode. So I'd like to say to my family, I love you. And to the camera guys and the cameras, they have to leave because they can't stay around for the shot. So let's see what happens.
Touching in the area will now fire the EMP pulse charging.
Here we go.
5. 4.
Get a little momentum.
3. 2. 1.
I'm still alive. The car isn't. The car is officially dead. I heard the click of the switch. The pulse came through, fried out the electronics as far as the starter switch. But there's still battery power. That's why the windows still work. They run basically very simply. You've got some lights on the dash, but when you try to go to the ignition, nothing really there. It just dies.
So an EM pulse from this facility can take out electronics from within a 50-foot radius. But what would be the extent of an actual E-bomb attack?
If a nuclear event is set off at the right distance above the ground, it can take out an entire area. So we're not talking about New Mexico. We're talking about the United States.
The kind of nuclear device that could do that sort of damage is designed to produce very little heat or blast. Instead, it creates a huge pulse of radio waves which sweep through long cables, frying delicate components forever.
What do you think would happen in the first 24 hours of an attack?
The word that comes to mind is chaos.
And Fred Levian ought to know. A retired naval commander, he is now one of the world's leading authorities on directed energy weapons. As an advisor to Congress, he has sworn to secrecy on much of this information. But even he doesn't know who might possess this kind of device.
Well, the Russians have been known to have built some directed energy weapons, microwave weapons, that are the size of a beer can. Yeah, and they're portable, and we don't know how many have been loose. The Russians have had a terrible time keeping track of their nuclear weapons and directed energy weapons. So we're not sure whether some of them have been stolen or whether they've been sold. So it's very difficult to have an accurate picture of what's available.
What would you have to do to be able to build a system like that?
Have brains and money.
Really?
Yeah, it's as simple as that.
Brains and money are no object to the terrorist. And 9/11 showed just how far they're prepared to go.
How would a terrorist use an E-bomb or an E-impulse?
For example, he could do it around an airport and wipe out all the equipment that the airport used to keep planes in the air and guided. Then you've got these thousands of airplanes in the air, which are essentially flying blind. They don't know where they're located anymore. They don't know where to land. They might fly until they run out of fuel and crash. That would be probably one of the most immediate catastrophes. Take it down to the New York Stock Exchange and detonate it there and wipe out trillions of dollars in people's money by shutting down the New York Stock Exchange.
Traveling at the speed of light, an EMP attack would strike everything directly in its line of sight. The higher the altitude, the greater the devastation. At 30 miles above the United States, the device would affect up to half a dozen states. But at 300 miles, the whole continent of North America would be brought to an irreversible standstill.
That signal would cover most of the country and essentially shut down the United States as far as communications go.
How long would it take us to recover?
I could think it could be months, and in some cases, perhaps years, for us to recover from that.
How do you protect yourself against something like that?
That's a good question, and it's probably the toughest one to answer, because although it might not be expensive to protect one system, you don't know which system a terrorist might hit. So it can run into extraordinary amounts of money to protect everything.
How severe is this threat? How actual is this threat?
Unfortunately, on a scale of 10, I'd give it an 8. But with people who have no regard, not only for us, but for human life, they'll do anything they can, and that's the big fear, I think.
Next, I uncovered the lasers that the military want to keep a secret.
An energy like that is going to cause an awful lot of damage to a person.
With weapons that move at the speed of light, there's no warning.
Imagine you're a soldier, and you look left to see your buddy all of a sudden spontaneously combust. Then all the vehicles around you, tanks, supply trucks, artillery shells, all erupt without an enemy in sight, and all in the blink of an eye.
It's a terrifying thought, but supercharged lasers are now being developed by the military as the next generation of lethal weapons.
If you're talking about a weapons-class laser, are either in the thousands of watts or the millions of watts. So an energy like that is going to cause an awful lot of damage to a person.
Nothing travels faster than light, so nothing can outrun it.
The laser beam is a light beam, and that goes 186,000 miles per second, which is essentially instantaneous.
And it can deliver its payload with pinpoint accuracy.
The laser beam itself is very directional. If you can point that laser beam, you can deliver a significant amount of power on target accurately.
I'm on my way to Albuquerque, New Mexico to find out how far the military is pushing the boundary of sci-fi technology. It's a world shrouded in total secrecy.
If there is secrecy about a particular system, it's because we don't want a potential adversary to be able to develop the same kind of system.
America is developing 3 new laser weapon systems capable of taking out anything in their path, and they do it at the speed of light. First up is the airborne laser. It's designed to shoot down intercontinental ballistic missiles from a jumbo jet. Next is the close combat version called the Advanced Tactical Laser. Carried on much smaller aircraft like the latest Joint Strike Fighter planes, the ATL is every bit as deadly, taking out air and ground targets with incredible stealth. And last but not least, the Marine Corps is now testing a mobile land system called the Tactical High Energy Laser. It will cut down and destroy incoming enemy missiles. This is Kirkland Air Force Base. It's the top secret headquarters for the very latest test in laser technology. Although it's highly classified, I've been given access to see one of the military's most powerful lasers in action. Here, scientists and engineers are experimenting with high-energy lasers to establish their effects on a whole range of metals and materials. It's all part of the process of building powerful weaponized lasers.
All right, here we are. This safe area. They're going to do a test shot, make sure everything works fine. This is a carbon dioxide laser, so I'm looking forward to checking out this in person.
This is one of the military's largest solid-state lasers, capable of delivering around 45 kilowatts of energy. Inside this tube is a mix of helium, oxygen, and carbon monoxide. These react to produce streams of highly charged photons. The result is a high-energy, invisible laser. In a matter of seconds, it can vaporize material like this sheet of plexiglass. But creating destructive power like this requires energy. A lot of energy.
Just for these two lasers alone, we have an entire room dedicated to the electricity output for these lasers themselves. It takes a lot of power, it takes a lot of gases, it takes an entire vacuum system. There's lots and lots of components to running these lasers themselves.
Even so, scientists have now managed to fit a modified version of this system into a 747 aircraft. Okay, it does require the use of several truck-sized vats of highly toxic chemicals, but it works.
Supercharged lethal lasers are here now. They're designed to take out missiles, satellites, even command and control systems with deadly precision. And that's just barely what the military will talk about.
Now the race is on to get this technology onto the battlefield. The Pentagon has already launched a multi-billion-dollar initiative to create a 100-kilowatt laser for tactical missions on land, at sea, and in the air. That sort of firepower would represent a quantum leap in military hardware. So it's hardly surprising that they want to keep the details a secret. But coming up, I bring you a preview of how these lethal weapons work on the battlefield.
So all you have to do is hit the body of that tank, and then it explodes from the inside out.
Mounted aboard this heavily modified Boeing 747, the airborne laser can track and destroy intercontinental ballistic missiles even before they leave enemy territory. To be effective, its highly charged lasers have to work over incredible distances.
The exact range is not something that is releasable, but we do admit that it's in the hundreds of kilometers.
Rick Garcia was the Director of Public Affairs for the ABL project.
The airborne laser can fly over friendly territory looking for targets that are well into the enemy's area.
Before taking out an incoming missile, the ABL uses a whole bank of sensors and low-powered lasers to size up the target.
On the skin of the aircraft, there are 6 infrared sensors, one in the nose, one in the tail, a couple on either side. And when a missile is launched, the hot exhaust plume from that missile will set off one or more of those infrared sensors. So then the first of the 4 lasers fires, and so it fires a relatively low-powered laser with a wide field of view toward that missile. Some of that light will hit the missile body and reflect back. That'll tell the aircraft the speed, the range, the altitude, even the point of origin, and possibly where it's going to impact.
Next, a low-power beam gives a precise fix on where to focus the energy. Then, to maximize the energy that reaches the target, a third beam measures the air turbulence between the ABL and the target. Using the same optical systems that telescopes use to see further into space, the ABL instantaneously reacts, overcoming these atmospheric distortions. This allows the full force of the killer laser to reach the missile, singling out its weakest part, the fuel tank.
So all you have to do is hit the body of that tank, get it to heat up, get it to start to crack, and then it explodes from the inside out. So it's a catastrophic failure at that point. And from the time that that first infrared sensor goes off to the time that that missile is toast can be anywhere from 8 to 12 seconds.
With this cutting-edge technology, the military will soon be able to send this aircraft anywhere in the world in less than 24 hours to hunt down and destroy enemy missiles. And from the jumbo-sized ABL to the smaller, lighter ATL, the Advanced Tactical Laser.
The ATL should be able to destroy a munition, a cruise missile, something of that like, destroy the shell of that and cause catastrophic failure at a range of approximately 10 miles.
With a beam of just 4 inches in diameter, the ATL is compact enough to fit on a fighter plane or road vehicle, but still has the power to attack in busy close-quarter situations.
You would hopefully be able to engage more than one target, multiple targets in that instance, much more quickly than you would with a missile-based system.
The effect of this weapon on ground troops would be total devastation.
If they're concerned about eye safety, they needn't be, because they'd be more apt to be concerned about being vaporized or erupting into flame, because that's what the laser would do to them.
But with its feet firmly on the ground, no laser weapon has achieved greater success than the tactical high-energy laser.
The THL is to protect a region from typically missile attack by shooting those missiles down at fairly short ranges, perhaps less than 10 miles.
Rather than having it up in space shooting at missiles as they leave the Earth's atmosphere, this is down below firing at Katyusha rockets that may be launched.
Katyusha rockets are short-range projectiles that were used in a series of devastating attacks by Hezbollah against Israel in the late 1990s. The Israelis had no effective countermeasures to defend its borders, and they needed a solution fast. Working with the United States Marine Corps, they developed